Hey everyone, welcome back to Hoopers Nation, your top destination for NBA basketball content. For over 2 decades, the San Antonio Spurs have been considered the standard bearers of excellence and consistency in the NBA. Led by a big three of Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili, the Spurs were able to build a dynasty that won 5 titles in the span of 15 years. And it all started with the vision of a revolutionary leader, Gregg Popovich. In this video, we'll take a look at the start, finish, and legacy of the San Antonio Spurs built by the Big Three and Gregg Popovich. But before we do, please make sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on Hoopers post notifications for more NBA content. San Antonio basketball has always been homonymous with winning. Since the NBA and ABA's merger in 1976, San Antonio has only missed the playoffs 5 times. That's only 5 out of 45 NBA seasons. From George Gervin to Artis Gilmore to David Robinson, the franchise always had a household star that helped lead the team into the postseason. They often got there, but they never experienced further success, making it to the conference finals a couple times but never reaching the championship round. That all changed with the arrival of Gregg Popovich to the Spurs bench. Popovich first got to San Antonio in 1987 as an assistant under then-head coach Larry Brown. Pop had some coaching experience from his time with the United States Air Force. He was an assistant in San Antonio until 1992, when former owner Red McCombs fired the entire staff. He was brought back shortly after in 1994, after Pete Holt purchased the team. But this time, Popovich was appointed as the team's general manager. The Spurs had a horrible 3-15 start to the 1996-97 regular season, as the team really struggled due to the absence of David Robinson, who was out with a back injury suffered in the preseason. And the team looked miserable. In what was back then considered an arrogant move, Popovich fired Bob Hill as the head coach and appointed himself as his replacement. But looking back, this was probably the best decision in Spurs franchise history. Robinson was out for most of the year, and he was only able to play in 6 games upon his return before breaking his foot. But the shorthanded Spurs did show some improvement under Popovich, finishing the season 17-47. Their disappointing 20-62 record landed them the first overall pick in the 1997 NBA draft, which the team used to select Tim Duncan out of Wake Forest University. That's when the Spurs Dynasty began. I wouldn't call San Antonio a dynasty, 11-time NBA head coach champion Phil Jackson said a couple of years ago. They're a force, a great force. They haven't been able to win consecutive championships, but they've always been there. As smart as the Zen Master is, this is actually a pretty bad take. You don't need to win back-to-back titles to become a true dynasty, you just need to be able to win a lot for a very long period of time, which is something only the Spurs have been able to do since Tim Duncan's arrival to the NBA. In Duncan's rookie season, which was Popovich's first full year as the Spurs head coach, the team went 56-26 and made the 1998 playoffs before losing to the Utah Jazz in the West semifinals. But the very next season, San Antonio went 37-13 in the lockout-shortened campaign and won their first ever NBA championship. It took Popovich and the Twin Towers, Robinson and Duncan, only 2 years together to win a ring. The team kept winning a lot in the regular season for the next 3 years, but was knocked out of the playoffs by the powerhouse Los Angeles Lakers and the Phoenix Suns. 2001 marked the arrival of another one of the franchise cornerstones, Tony Parker, who immediately became the team's starting point guard. Then in 2002, Manu Ginobili finally made his NBA debut, after the Spurs took him in the second round of the 1999 draft, but Manu decided to remain playing pro basketball in Italy. In the Big Three's first season together, which was also the last for legendary David Robinson, the Spurs won their second NBA championship. Robinson's retirement left a huge void in San Antonio, both emotionally and on the court. Their defense wasn't the same without the Admiral, and the team also lost sharpshooter Steve Kerr and Danny Ferry to retirement. Popovich was nearly forced to reinvent the wheel after losing so many key contributors. But thanks to the amazing connection between San Antonio star players, their coach, and management, the Spurs were able to perfectly reshape their roster around the strength and weaknesses of their Big Three. After struggling a bit in 2004 with the new additions having a hard time adjusting and fitting in, the Spurs went back to their winning ways in 2005, claiming another NBA championship. 2 seasons later, San Antonio won yet another NBA title, conquering their 4th championship in 9 years. The team was often atop the Western Conference standings throughout the years and was always a huge threat in the NBA playoffs. San Antonio returned to the NBA Finals in 2013 and won one more NBA championship in 2014. As Tim Duncan put it, that title was not bad for a bunch of old guys. But even with an aging core of Timmy, Parker, and Ginobili, the team already had its next big star to take over in Kawhi Leonard, who won the 2014 Finals MVP. One summer later, all-star big man LaMarcus Aldridge signed with the Spurs in free agency. The old guys were ready to pass the torch and excited to see everything they'd built live on. It wasn't a mere coincidence that the Spurs were able to win so much. They've created a culture of discipline and unselfishness that became the essence of the team. All San Antonio did throughout the years was continue doing what had worked for them. They weren't in any need to look for the next big star or blockbuster trade that would make them the undisputed top contenders in the West. They just worked with the people they had and made sure everybody bought into the culture. I think our success over the years is in large part due to continuity, says Popovich, who's now in his league-leading 25th straight season as Spurs head coach. Synergy between ownership and management and coaches is rare, because in most organizations there's always friction of one sort or another. If that synergy is good and you have an opportunity for continuity, and that continuity is good, then continuity means corporate knowledge from year to year, and that's important. Popovich is a master leader who knows what type of people he works best with and how to make his people buy into the team's culture. Of course, you need players who are unselfish enough to buy into this culture, but that's just a byproduct of how Popovich and the Spurs organization have always treated their players. If you don't like how things are done in San Antonio, there aren't going to be any special accommodations for you. Look at what happened with Kawhi Leonard. The Spurs won 67 and 61 games after he took the team's reins following their 5th championship. Popovich and the front office tried to solve the issues that led to Kawhi's trade request just to find out his situation was unsolvable, and moved on. The show had to continue. The thing is, it was a very different show than San Antonio was used to running. With Leonard gone by 2018, Patty Mills was the only player left from the 2014 title-winning roster. This was a huge blow for a team that thrived off continuity and the success of homegrown stars. The team had just broken their 20-year streak of consecutive 50-plus win seasons, yet still managed to make the playoffs in 2019 with 48 wins. It was DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge leading the pack this time, surrounded by a bunch of young, unproven, homegrown guys. Then in 2020, San Antonio's 22-year playoff streak came to an end after a shortened campaign that ended with a 32-39 record. Many people thought this moment officially marked the end of the Spurs Dynasty. There were already hints of it ever since the team was forced to trade away Leonard, but not seeing the Spurs in the playoffs for the first time in more than 2 decades felt odd. The team wasn't doing anything different to what they had always done and what had always worked, but most of the West had way more talented rosters, which is something hard to beat no matter how great of a culture you've built. It's exactly what happened to the Warriors last year. Still, this may not be the end of the Spurs dynasty, but rather just part of its evolution. Despite claiming he would retire at the same time as Tim Duncan, the 72-year-old Gregg Popovich is still looking to win another championship in San Antonio 5 years after Duncan's retirement. You can't have an all-time great player on your team for 25 seasons, but you sure can have an all-time great coach for that long. Plus, the youth in San Antonio gives hope the team can soon return to consistently winning ways. They may not have a generational talent like David Robinson, Tim Duncan, or Kawhi Leonard anymore, but they have multiple youngsters with star potential surrounded with the perfect group of Spur veterans. DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson, Derek White, Lonnie Walker, Jakob Poeltl, all of these are really good young players. All the Spurs need is 1 or 2 of them to break out because they've got a great supporting cast that's ready to contend. Plus, having veterans like DeRozan, Aldridge, Patty Mills, and Rudy Gay, all of which can still contribute on the court, is a big plus. It's also encouraging to see the Spurs with a winning record after losing 4 of their first 6 games of the 2020-21 regular season. They haven't been fully healthy, and even making the playoffs this year isn't a guarantee, but they're on the right track to return to dominance. San Antonio leads the league with the fewest turnovers and fouls per game. They're also featuring a faster pace that's led to them leading the NBA on field goal attempts as well. The core is on the right path, and you never know when a big free agent can arrive. The only choice you have is to start at the beginning again, said Coach Pop. Don't skip any steps, don't take anything for granted. As long as he's there, the Spurs dynasty is alive and well. The clock is ticking though, because Popovich can't have many more seasons where he can keep up with all of the traveling and responsibilities that come with an NBA coaching position. There's even a chance that the dynasty continues and evolves under a new voice in the future, with homegrown assistant Becky Hammond recently becoming the first female to act as a head coach after Pop was ejected in a game earlier this season. But let's not get too far ahead. The Spurs aren't winning a title this year. Heck, they might not even make the playoffs. But you can rest assured that they'll keep on doing what has worked for more than 20 years. If this core develops up to their potential, San Antonio will have enough talent to once again be really dangerous in the Western Conference very soon. Evolution requires adaptation, so we'll soon find out whether Popovich's 2-decade formula is still a winning formula. And if not, he can still be proud, because it was the building block for one of the most incredible dynasties in the history of pro basketball. Can the legacy of the Spurs help the franchise keep winning? Can Gregg Popovich lead San Antonio to one last championship ring before retiring? Make sure to comment your thoughts down below, as well as leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.